Erik Peterson is from the Treehouse at Nintendo, the world famous Treehouse, and you guys are putting on a pretty cool event right here. It's RPG Mania. You have so many RPGs coming for the 3DS. Let's talk about the biggies, Fire Emblem and Bravely Second, I think, right?
Fire Emblem Fates is coming, obviously a huge game. And, the Fire Emblem series has always been about a couple things. That really awesome combat system, with that weapons triangle, always really satisfying to play. And also epic storylines with the characters, all of the kind of ins and outs of the intrigue, the drama. And this game really takes all of those features to the next level. It also has some cool features like a My Castle feature, which enables you to customize your characters, build new buildings in your castle, even customize the design and music in your own castle. So some really cool features coming in this new version.
There's two versions of Fire Emblem this time.
There are actually three.
There are three. Okay, break it down for us, Matt.
I can. So Fire Emblem Fates Birthright is one version. The other is Fire Emblem Fates Conquest. And those are the two versions that really reflect a choice that the player has to make somewhere down the line. They have to choose, their allegiance between the family that raised them and their bloodline, their actual blood family. And this is kind of a symbolic of some of the storylines you see in the Fire Emblem series. They're just really big choices. There's also a third path. So later on, players can choose to purchase either one of those or both of those storylines. And those two different storylines are different, but they interweave in many interesting ways. There's a third storyline called Fire Emblem Fates Revelation that is sort of the third pillar to this story, which is what if you chose not to go with either one of those sides, and you get to see yet another dimension of the story.
Wow, and now are those three separate different versions of the game then that players have to make the choice on?
They are. So the first two versions retail releases, and you're able to pick those up. The third one is a game that you can purchase after the fact, starting on March 10th. That you're able to buy using, in the in-game store or via download code, and that kind of tells yet another dimension to the tale.
You are my child now.
Is that the first sort of use of DLC that we've seen in a Fire Emblem game before, ever?
It is a new dimension for Fire Emblem for us, and I think it does add some new things. We have announced some other interesting things, a map pack that enables you to kind of purchase all of the in-game content for this game. This is a huge game with just so much to offer, and there are a lot of different angles to this game about the story that you want to do, and each one of those sides, Birthright and Conquest, they have their own unique play style and different game style, and I think that everyone's going to want to have a chance to kind of experience both.
These games are always enormous anyways, but it sounds like you've got like a 3-act structure and lots of different twists and turns and characters that you can probably lose forever, which is a hallmark of the series. Talk about the development of that and how long it took to get this thing localized, and people working at the Treehouse writing all the stories or working on the stories.
Any kind of game like this is a massive undertaking, and folks have been working on this for a really long time. And I know in the Treehouse at least, there's a huge amount of care that's placed into those characters, the storyline, and just making sure that really those characters in that world comes alive. And I know that there's a lot of work with the Japanese development teams to make that happen.
So when you have a game like this, which does seem like probably the most crazy ambition I've seen in the Fire Emblem ever. It has a finality to it. It feels like, okay, is this going to be the last thing that we see in this franchise on this machine? Is this kind of this franchise saying so long to the 3DS?
I'm not going to go there.
I know, but I mean, it sounds so big. Like, how do you follow this up?
I honestly don't know how you top this. Huge, 3 different kind of interwoven storylines. Obviously, this is a huge undertaking, but I think that Fire Emblem fans are really going to love it because it takes the core of what makes Fire Emblem great and just builds on it and takes it to the next level.
Kill me if you want, but do it as yourself.
There's another game here that I want to talk about, though, which is Bravely Second End Layer. I think that a lot of people enjoyed Bravely Default. That was a game that it just got a lot of traction. I think a lot of people really connected with that game. And Bravely Second takes a lot of what made the last game good and makes it even better. A couple new features I got to mention for Bravely Second is, one, we announced the Collector's Edition for the first time here today. It's really exciting. I know fans are really going to like that. But 2, it's this new dimension of risk-reward. So the last game was built on risk-reward. You had that idea of this whole combat system of brave and default. So without getting into too many details, essentially, when players play the game, they can earn brave points every turn, and they can spend those by doing additional actions. So you could go, okay, I gotta kill this enemy. I'm just gonna spend those brave points and go get it. Or they can default, which is kind of a defensive move, and they can earn an additional brave point. Now you're like, well, what does that really mean? What it means is risk and reward. So you're putting yourself at risk, and you're getting a potential reward. we're taking that to the next level in this game with the idea of consecutive battles. So all of us have played the RPG grinding game.
Yeah.
You've gotten in there like, okay, I got to grind these enemies. But what you can do in this game is you actually have the option, I don't want to get into the details, but you have the option of basically continuing a battle on. And the more, you're fighting some monsters, I want to keep fighting monsters. Okay, let's just keep fighting. There's some risk there. You don't know if you're going to get taken down. You might get party wiped. Yeah. But what you also get is to keep fighting, and you're going to get greater and greater rewards as you go.
It's almost game show-esque.
It is a little bit. I think one of the other things about Bravely Default for me personally is it's the idea of almost a puzzle,
yeah.
right? So you're creating this super party, and you just want to wreck your enemies.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better. I mean, honestly, when you're playing an RPG and you have the perfect concoction of like, this is the job, this is the class, this is the ability that I need to just wreck this kind of enemy. It's great, but now you have a favorites section. It seems like a small advance, but it actually makes a huge difference because now what you can do is you can program it in. Okay, this is how I defeat these kind of enemies. I'm gonna save that as a favorite. I'm gonna go back to it. Oh, those enemies are back? Okay, now they're down. Like I've got you figured out. But there isn't one way to approach a particular enemy in Bravely Second. There are many different ways, but you may have a favorite.
And Bravely Default, I think, was kind of a surprise smash, right? I don't think everybody was kind of expecting it to be as popular as it was. So how much deviation are you doing with the way that the story was like? Is it a direct sequel? Are we carrying on with the same cast of characters?
Many returning characters. You're going back to Luxton Dark, which is that world, from the original Bravely Default, right. And you have some new characters, but you're also going back to save a returning character from the last game. Agnès Oblige, which is sort of the famous character from the first game, has been kidnapped, and you're out to save her with a cast of returning characters that people were going to really associate with, Adia and Tiz, but you also have some new characters as well. And I don't want to ruin anything, but I mean, this game is all about the locales and exploring this world and going to different places, and I think fans are really going to like this game. One last thing, I did mention the Collector's Edition. We announced that today for the first time. This Collector's Edition is amazing, and I think that part of that comes down to the idea of what's included is this art book, and we call it, I think in the slide that we showed today, we show a deluxe art book. Deluxe does not begin to describe this thing. It's absolutely amazing. This book is 250 pages. It's an 8.5 by 11. We're talking like a book.
So an art tome.
It's an art tome. It has developer commentary. It has some prototype stuff in it. It's a beautifully printed book. It's really great. It's also got a soundtrack CD. I think fans are really going to dig that.
It's amazing to see developers just go the extra mile, and we've watched this all the way along. I think in the RPG genre, especially, just going nuts with RPG art and RPG assets and storytelling on the 3DS.
Well, I'm glad you like it.
Pokemon is coming back as a digital download. Of course, celebrating 20 years there with the red version, blue version, yellow version. And these games are true to the originals.
I was at the first E3 when Pokemon was announced. I was there, and I was calling it Pokemon because it was all brand new to us. And I can't believe it's been 20 years, man. It's unbelievable.
Collecting all the Pokemans. Yes. So that game is coming really cool, but you have wireless trading in that game. So it's sort of like, taking that original, not messing it up, but also adding a dimension that just makes it so much more enjoyable. You also have Project Cross Zone 2, which is here.
Another surprise. I mean, the other game was really cool, but it was not for everybody. It was a little bit kind of esoteric, but great ideas, lots of mishmash of lots of cool characters. What's different with this one?
It's going back to that idea of fan service. Of really adding additional things. So you have, you're creating these teams, from characters from Bandai Namco, and a lot of other games, but now you also have Nintendo characters coming in. Crom and Lucina.
Are you guys publishing it?
I don't think that we are. Okay. I think that our partners are. But that to me is a great example of a game that can just be a mashup of all the things that you love.
RPG Smash Brothers. In a way.
It's a great thing to play. Another game that we have here is Mario and Luigi Paper Jam.
Yeah. I was playing that on the plane for many hours.
Oh, really? Okay.
Very fun game.
Yeah, we were talking about some of the media here have kind of started to get their hands on it.
Yeah.
Those are two series for me personally that just mean so much. So the Mario and Luigi series, always known for comedy and just amazing kind of gameplay. The Paper Mario series, dear to me. I worked on Paper Mario games.
Do you guys? Do you have like a writing room, like something that you would see in a sitcom or something like? And you guys are trying to compete with each other to make each other laugh as you're writing the scripts for these things?
That's always how it's been with Paper Mario. You know, I know that the Paper Marios I worked on Super Paper Mario, it was always just trying to make, you know, Nate, who is, you know, one of the longtime writers in there, just make him laugh. And I know that the Treehouse team is always doing that, always trying to one-up each other on the comedy. And that's a series I think that is just really cool.
Well, what happens, though, when you take it in a direction that Nintendo Japan maybe wasn't thinking of, you know, because the humor isn't exactly the same or doesn't correlate? Do you guys have the freedom? Are you untethered enough that you can kind of take it in your own way?
Well, I know that the localization team really tries their best to maintain that authenticity, you know, of the original, and they work hand in hand with those guys, and they really try to make a localization come alive that really honors the original, you know, intent of the original. But you know, comedy is something that is just, you know, it's regional, you know, so I think it's always a good challenge for them. But I know that there's so much love and care from that localization team that's put into these games.
I imagine at this point too, you guys are so shorthand with your communication back and forth with Nintendo Japan. It's his own world, and we just fall in for it, right?
There's a great partnership there, and honestly, it comes down to the developers just being really genius at what they do, really creative at what they do. This is a game, you know, Paper Jam, that I think incorporates so much. I mean, look at it; it's a mashup between the Mario and Luigi series and the Paper Mario series, but it cherry picks some of the best ideas from both of those things.
A little bit of the Zelda Link Between Two Worlds is in there too, with the going into 2D and sliding between.
It is a little bit like that. Yeah, I mean, I think that they're always trying to make, you know, new ideas with this stuff, and that's a great game, you know, that really builds on what both of those series really represents.
Oh yeah!
Nintendo handhelds have always been known for RPGs. I mean, there's always that beefy lineup. If you go back through all of our history, from the Golden Suns to you know, all of these games, we're about RPGs on handhelds, and
why do you think that works so well? Why do you think that works so well? Why do you think we like to carry these around and dive into them for a while, put them away, and then dive back in? Why do you think it works?
Well, for me, it's just like when I'm on a flight, for instance, I just want to like get into an RPG and just dive right into it and just keep going with it and just extract that experience out of it. But it isn't just on the go. I don't know about you guys, but I found myself so many times playing an RPG on a handheld at home, just sitting on the couch and just doing it. And
is it the book quality, do you think?
It is a little bit about that.
Is it kind of like this is a different way to experience a story, and it's analogous to opening up a book?
Well, and you want to take a book with you, right? You want to kind of have it with you wherever you go, so you have 5 minutes. Oh yeah, I'm going to jam on this game for a little bit. I'm going to grind out a little bit more.
If you haven't noticed, this isn't exactly the best time to talk.
I mean, we have so much cool stuff here today, and it's been really exciting to talk RPGs to people.
Hey, thanks for checking out that video on our EPN channel. It's just one small part of the things that we make around here. So if you liked it, don't forget to check out some of our other vids and hit that subscribe button.